Whiskey Ridge was a town that seemed to exist on the edge of the world, where the sun rarely broke through the thick clouds of dust and misfortune. It had become infamous for its lawlessness and rough men who roamed the streets like wolves on the hunt. Gold had drawn many to these parched hills, but greed often overshadowed morality. The saloon stood as a central figure in this chaotic life, a place where laughter mingled with shouts and gunfire echoed through the air. Every Saturday, under the heavy wooden beams of the saloon roof, a brutal tradition unfolded. Unwanted brides were auctioned off to the highest bidder. It was a spectacle that drew townsfolk from far and wide, their faces lit with a mix of excitement and cruelty as they placed bids on women who had little choice in their fate. For many, it was just another part of life in Whiskey Ridge. For others, it was an unsettling reminder of how desperate circumstances could turn human beings into commodities. On one such Saturday, Evelyn Marsh found herself at the center of this grim ritual. Clad in a wedding dress that once symbolized hope and joy, she felt more like a prisoner than a bride. Her heart pounded in her chest as she was dragged toward the stage, her feet stumbling on the rough wooden floorboards. The jeers of men echoed around her like thunderclaps, each laugh slicing through her spirit. She wanted to scream, to run away from this nightmare unfolding before her. As she reached the stage, the auctioneer's voice rang out loud and clear, demanding attention. "Who will start us off?" he bellowed, rubbing his hands together with glee. The crowd responded with raucous calls and bids began to fly. $10. $20. Each bid felt like daggers aimed at her heart. She could not believe this was happening. Evelyn's mind raced as she faced the crowd. She thought about her family back home and how they had sent her here with dreams of finding love instead of being sold like cattle. But none of that mattered now. All that filled her head was dread as she wondered who would claim her next. Just as the gavel lifted high above his head, ready to fall, an unexpected sound shattered the frenzied atmosphere. A gunshot rang out with terrifying clarity. The room fell silent as gasps replaced laughter. All eyes turned toward the source of chaos. The winning bidder slumped forward onto the floor, blood pooling around him. In that charged moment, a figure stepped forward from the shadows. Noah Ward. His scarred face told stories of battles fought both inside and outside himself. He holstered his pistol deliberately before raising his chin defiantly toward everyone present. "She's claimed," he declared firmly. A hush fell over Whiskey Ridge. No one dared argue with him. Noah's reputation preceded him. He was not just another miner, but a man who commanded respect through fear and strength. Evelyn looked at him with wide eyes, confusion swirling within her heart. Who was this man willing to step into such chaos for her? Little did anyone know about their shared past. How Evelyn once saved his sister during a deadly cholera outbreak that had swept through their community. In that moment, under the saloon roof, fates intertwined unexpectedly. Neither knew how deeply their connection would alter both their lives and perhaps even transform Whiskey Ridge itself in ways they could never imagine. The crowd swelled outside the saloon, a blend of rough miners and curious townsfolk eager to witness the spectacle that was about to unfold. Laughter erupted amidst the shouts as men exchanged crude jokes, their faces flushed with anticipation. The air, thick with dust and a hint of whiskey, created an uneasy atmosphere, charged with the thrill of both excitement and cruelty. Evelyn Marsh stood off to the side, clutching the edges of her wedding dress as if it could shield her from the madness around her. The fabric felt heavier than ever, weighing her down with dread. As she watched the townsfolk gather, her heart raced, each thud echoing in her ears like a drum signaling her fate. She could feel their eyes on her, some filled with amusement, others with disregard for her humanity. "Look at her," one man jeered, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Isn't she a pretty one?" Another chimed in, laughing boisterously. "Maybe I'll take her home and teach her how to cook." Their taunts pierced through her like arrows, making her wish she could disappear into thin air. The auctioneer, a rotund man with beady eyes and a well-worn hat perched crookedly on his head, clapped his hands to get everyone's attention. "Step right up, folks. You won't want to miss this chance." His voice boomed through the saloon like thunder, drowning out the sideline chuckles and murmurs. With a swift motion, two burly men grabbed Evelyn by her arms and pulled her toward the stage. Panic clawed at her throat as she stumbled along, desperately trying to hold on to some shreds of dignity. She had hoped for a love-filled union, not to be paraded as a prize for these rough men to bid on like livestock. As she reached the stage, every eye in the saloon fixated on her. The bidding began immediately, echoing in waves that washed over her like cold water. $10, shouted one eager face from the back. 20, replied another man who leaned forward, eyes gleaming with greed. Evelyn's heart sank further with each bid that rose higher and higher. "Do they even see me?" she thought bitterly. To them, she was nothing more than a piece of property to claim. She felt trapped under their hungry gazes, while memories of hope floated away like smoke on the wind. "Who's going to give me 30? The auctioneer's gluttonous grin widened as he sensed the escalating frenzy in the room. It was almost as though he thrived on their desperation. The tension built as alcohol-fueled bravado filled the air. Evelyn caught snippets of chants urging their favorite bidders on. "Come on, don't let anyone else take her." Every competitive shout made her stomach churn. In that moment, she was stripped of all agency, only fear remained within her. Just when the gavel appeared poised to fall and finalize what felt like a nightmare come to life, despair cloaked her heart completely. But then a sudden hush washed over the crowd. A gunshot rang out. Thunder rolled through Whiskey Ridge as chaos erupted around her. Gasps replaced laughter as the heads turned towards the noise. Everyone froze in shock as the winning bidder fell forward, lifeless on the worn floorboards, pooling blood creating dark stains in an otherwise dull scene. From beneath the shadows emerged Noah Ward, his scarred face betraying nothing but determination. He holstered his pistol slowly but confidently, commanding silence across the saloon once more. With an authority that demanded respect, he declared firmly, "She's claimed." In that charged moment where silence reigned over chaos, Evelyn's gaze locked onto Noah's fierce eyes. A flicker of hope ignited within her. Perhaps amid this turmoil, there was still a chance for something more than survival. The atmosphere inside the saloon grew charged with tension as the auctioneer, with a flourish of his hands, kicked off the bidding war. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the most exciting event of the week," he called out, his voice booming over the crowd's cheers and jeers. The small room was alive with anticipation, and the air felt thick, almost suffocating, as townsfolk leaned in closer to catch every moment. Evelyn stood rigid on the stage, her heart pounding loudly in her chest. As she looked out at the sea of faces, she felt exposed and vulnerable under their keen scrutiny. Shouts of encouragement erupted from eager bidders as they exchanged glances filled with greed and desperation. $10, yelled a grizzled miner from the back, his unkempt beard framing a face hardened by years of hard labor. Without waiting for a response, another voice called out, $20. This time it was a younger man whose wide eyes betrayed both excitement and envy. They were like wolves circling prey, and Evelyn's stomach churned with every escalating bid. "Do they even see me?" she thought bitterly, her mind racing. To them, she was merely an object to be won or lost, stripped of her identity and worth. The laughter that erupted around her felt cruel and mocking. It cut deeper than any knife could. Each taunt echoed in her ears as if they were throwing stones instead. $30, came another shout. Now all semblance of civility had vanished. Men waved their arms to make their presence known, desperate for attention amidst the chaos unfolding before them. The auctioneer relished in the frenzy he had ignited. His crooked smile widened as he sensed the ferocity among them. 40, shouted an old-timer who rarely missed a chance at such carnage. He leaned forward on his worn-out cane as if it anchored him amid this whirlwind. The crowd roared in agreement with his bid, egging him on as if they were cheering for a prize fight. Evelyn could barely breathe as she squeezed the fabric of her wedding dress tighter. It felt like shackles binding her fate to these men. She had dreamed once of love and commitment, not this twisted game where she would be won by bids that rose higher than any sense of decency. $50, came yet another offer from a man whose face was flushed with drink, his bravado blinding him to the reality of what this meant for her life. The bidding continued like an unstoppable avalanche. Evelyn felt trapped within the storm. The auctioneer thrived on their fervor, shouting for more bids while waving his gavel like a maestro conducting discordant music. 60. Who will give me $60? With each new bid announced, Evelyn's heart sank lower, knowing that each amount represented someone else's claim on her existence. She was caught in this desolate cycle where desperation ruled over kindness or respect. Suddenly, amidst all the noise and shouting, an overwhelming wave of silence rolled through the saloon like an approaching storm front. As if an invisible hand had pressed pause on chaos, heads turned toward the entrance where shadows danced ominously. Before anyone could react further or initiate another bid, a deafening gunshot pierced through the tension-filled air, a sound so startling it halted everything in its tracks. Gasps filled the room. Men staggered back while others froze like statues in shock. The winning bidder collapsed forward into a heap on the floor as blood pooled beneath him, instantly transforming excitement into horror before their eyes. The auctioneer fumbled with his words while panic spread throughout the crowd. Emerging from those shadows was Noah Ward. He stood tall and resolute amidst confusion surrounding them all. As he holstered his pistol slowly but deliberately, he commanded immediate attention when he spoke firmly. "She's claimed." Evelyn's heart leapt at his words. There seemed to be more than mere protection behind them, almost like a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters. In that charged moment when silence fell again across Whiskey Ridge's chaotic scene, hope flickered within her chest, despite everything that had just happened. The tension in the saloon reached a fever pitch as the auctioneer raised his gavel high, ready to declare the winning bid. The cacophony of voices echoed off the walls, each shout blending into a chaotic symphony of greed and desperation. Evelyn stood frozen, her heart racing, as she sensed the moment hanging in the air like a thunderstorm about to break. $60, roared one man, his voice thick with excitement, and the crowd erupted in approval. The thrill of victory was palpable among the bidders, but for Evelyn, every new bid felt like another chain binding her to this grim fate. Just as she braced herself for the gavel to fall and seal her doom, a sound sliced through the noise, a sharp crack that shattered the atmosphere like glass. A gunshot rang out, reverberating through the saloon with deafening clarity. The instant it pierced the air, laughter faded into shocked silence as gasps filled the room. Eyes widened, and mouths fell agape as everyone turned toward the source of chaos. Time seemed to freeze for a split second. Hearts raced while an unsettling fear washed over them all. Evelyn's breath caught in her throat as she watched the winning bidder lurch forward, crumpling to the floor in a lifeless heap. Blood pooled beneath him, stark against the dusty wooden floor, an image that would be seared into her memory forever. The crowd erupted into chaos, men shouting in confusion while others scrambled back, their faces pale with disbelief. Chairs toppled over as panic set in. Those who had just been bidding with fervor now seemed paralyzed by terror. "Get back! Get back!" someone shouted, but the crowd surged forward nonetheless, eager to witness the aftermath of this brutal interruption. Questions hung heavy in the air. Who fired the shot? Was there a threat they hadn't seen? Fear spread quickly, sending shivers down spines as uncertainty gripped them all. Emerging from the shadows, a figure stepped forward, a man whose presence commanded attention. Noah Ward stood tall and confident, his eyes scanning the room with intensity. He was not just any stranger. He was a man marked by his past, weathered by life's harsh realities. The scar on his cheek told stories of battles fought and won, and those lost. As he holstered his pistol slowly, every eye in the saloon turned toward him. With a voice that resonated authority, he declared firmly, "She's claimed." In that moment, it felt as if the air shifted around them. Something monumental had occurred that went beyond mere survival. Evelyn's heart raced, not just from fear, but from uncertainty mixed with something else. Hope? Could this man truly be her salvation? As she locked eyes with Noah, she felt an unexpected connection igniting within her. He had stepped into chaos to rescue her in a way no one else dared. But even amidst this flicker of hope, tension hung palpably in the room. Some men looked ready to retaliate. Others were too stunned into silence to react at all. The auctioneer stumbled over his words, struggling to regain control while trying to understand what had just happened. In that charged moment under the saloon roof, Evelyn realized that everything had changed. No longer merely an object of a cruel tradition, she was now caught up in a whirlwind of unforeseen consequences brought on by one act of violence. She found herself standing not only at the brink of survival, but at the edge of something greater, a chance for redemption, or perhaps a new beginning forged amid chaos. The stunned silence that followed the gunshot hung heavy in the air, thick enough to cut. Evelyn's heart raced as she caught sight of Noah Ward stepping forward, a figure forged by hardship and resilience. He moved with purpose, the shadows flickering across his scarred face, illuminating the deep lines etched into his skin, a testament to battles fought and survived. With a steady hand, he holstered his pistol, the metallic click resonating like a bell tolling in the hushed saloon. The townsfolk parted slightly to create a path for him, instinctively recognizing the authority he commanded. Whispers rippled through the crowd as men glanced at one another, unsure whether to feel excitement or fear at this unexpected twist. Noah's gaze was intense as it swept over the chaotic scene before him, assessing those who had moments ago been reveling in their cruel game. "She's claimed," he declared firmly, his voice cutting through the thick tension like a blade. The words echoed through the saloon, leaving an indelible mark on all who heard them. It was not a request, it was a statement of ownership that brooked no argument. Evelyn felt a rush of conflicting emotions as she locked eyes with him. This man who had appeared from nowhere, and yet felt so familiar in an inexplicable way. For a fleeting moment her fears ebbed as she saw something fierce and protective in his expression. But confusion also pulsed within her. What did this mean? Was she truly safe now, or merely exchanging one form of captivity for another? The reaction from the crowd was immediate and visceral. Some men shouted objections, while others stood frozen in shock at Noah's bold declaration. "Who does he think he is?" One man barked angrily, stepping forward only to be met with Noah's unwavering stare that seemed to dare him to continue. "Back off!" came another voice from somewhere in the back, one of respect and recognition rather than challenge. It was clear that Noah wasn't just any stranger. He was someone known and feared among these rough men of Whiskey Ridge. Evelyn's breath hitched again as chaos threatened to erupt once more. She felt like a pawn caught between two opposing forces, those who saw her as an object of ridicule, and those who recognized Noah's commanding presence as something not to be trifled with. "Let him take her," someone muttered under their breath, surrendering to the gravity of the situation while trying to maintain some semblance of dignity amidst their disbelief. As tension crackled like electricity in the room, Noah stepped closer to Evelyn, his demeanor shifting from fierce protector back into something softer, almost reassuring. "You're safe now," he said quietly enough for only her to hear, but even then it carried weight beyond mere words. Before Evelyn could process his statement fully, she found herself enveloped by an aura that promised protection, unlike anything she had experienced before. A sense of security amid this lawless chaos where women were treated as mere commodities. But even with that flicker of hope ignited within her heart, uncertainty loomed large. What did being claimed truly mean? Would this act rescue her from auction block horrors, or trap her further into a life dictated by someone else? As chaos still swirled around them, men arguing or retreating into whispers, the real battle lay ahead. Navigating whatever lay beyond this moment with Noah at her side. In that charged atmosphere under the saloon roof where everything shifted irrevocably when Noah spoke those words, Evelyn realized she stood not just at a crossroads, but on the brink of something far greater than survival alone. A chance to reclaim her own destiny against all odds. As the chaos swirled around them, Noah Ward moved closer to Evelyn, his presence both intimidating and oddly reassuring. The whispers of the crowd faded into a dull hum as her focus narrowed on him. She could feel the weight of his gaze, intense yet filled with something deeper that stirred a flicker of recognition within her. Suddenly, it hit her like a thunderclap. A memory from years past emerged, vivid and clear. The distant echoes of terrified cries filled her mind, bringing forth images of her sister, Clara, who had fallen ill during the cholera outbreak that swept through their community. It was a dark time when fear reigned and hope felt scarce. In those harrowing days, she remembered a man whose determination had saved Clara and so many others from the clutches of despair, Noah Ward. Evelyn's heart raced, not just from fear, but from a rush of emotions mixed with confusion and hope. How could this man standing before her now, capable of such fierce protection, also be the one who had once fought against time and death for her family? The depth of his character revealed in that moment as she stared into his intense eyes. "Do you remember me?" she wanted to ask, but held her tongue instead. Many years had passed since those fateful days. Had he recognized her as well? The thought lingered along with the other overwhelming uncertainties. As Noah drew near, the chaotic tension in the saloon seemed to shift. The words "she's claimed" still echoed in her ears. She couldn't help but wonder what that would mean for her now. Would she truly find safety in his company? Or was she simply exchanging one form of confinement for another, bound to a man who carried both scars and shadows? Yet even as doubt clouded her thoughts, a warmth began to unfurl in her chest. This man, who had once been her sister's hero, was now stepping forward to protect her. His intent felt sincere, a realization that made her heart flutter in an unexpected way. Evelyn could see the townsfolk still grappling with the chaos around them. Conversations grew hushed, eyes darting between Noah and herself as they struggled to process this new reality. All were aware that something significant had shifted because of him. Respect mingled with fear among the crowd. He was not someone to be trifled with. "Will he keep me safe?" flashed through her mind as she tried to assess the meaning behind his protective stance. Yet there was no time for these swirling doubts. They were pressing ahead through danger rather than standing still in uncertainty. The saloon felt charged with an electric energy, as if it held its breath in expectation before a coming storm. Different factions formed uneasy alliances amid scattered frustrations. Some men eyed Noah warily, while others begrudgingly acknowledged his authority over the situation. But within this tumultuous world outside, Evelyn found herself maintaining focus only on Noah's steady presence. He took another step closer, quietly observing her. His dark eyes conveyed comfort laced with resolve, without needing any words at all. With each heartbeat, she sensed an undeniable connection resurface between them that transcended trauma and distance. Evelyn realized that while the future remained uncertain, perhaps it held more potential than mere survival alone. Gathering herself amid the whirlwind they'd just endured and everything yet to come, she felt ready to embrace whatever lay ahead with Noah by her side, an unexpected ally transformed into a steadfast protector against all odds. As Evelyn stood amidst the chaos of the saloon, her mind began to wander back to that fateful summer when cholera swept through their town like a dark cloud. The memories surfaced unbidden, vivid and haunting, pulling her away from the present moment. She could see her sister Clara lying feverish and pale, the color drained from her cheeks as she struggled against the relentless grip of the illness. The fear in their household had been palpable. Parents whispered desperate prayers over Clara's bed, while neighbors stayed away, terrified of contagion. It was during that harrowing time that Evelyn had met Noah Ward for the first time. She remembered his eyes, fierce yet compassionate, as he moved through the chaos with a sense of purpose that inspired those around him. Evelyn had felt compelled to help, knowing she couldn't just stand by while her sister suffered. With every ounce of courage, she ventured out into the streets where others had fled, determined to find anything that might alleviate Clara's suffering. She recalled rummaging through homes that had been abandoned, searching for medicine or supplies, her heart pounding with fear that she might contract the disease herself. Noah was there too. He worked tirelessly alongside others who dared to tend to the sick, his hands stained with sweat and perhaps a bit of blood as he tended to those in need. Despite the risk, he had taken it upon himself to care for Clara when no one else would. She had watched him administer herbal remedies and cool cloths, his brow furrowed in concentration as he fought against time and illness. One day, when Clara's condition worsened, it was Noah who urged Evelyn to keep faith alive. "She's a fighter," he said softly, "and we have to be strong for her." His words were laced with conviction and hope, igniting a flicker of determination in Evelyn's heart, even when despair threatened to consume them both. In a moment of desperation, Evelyn had taken it upon herself to gather herbs from the wildflowers that grew on the outskirts of town, an old remedy passed down through generations. Armed with only her resolve and Noah's unwavering support, they prepared a concoction together. When Clara regained consciousness after days of feverish torment and sipped from the mixture they had created, relief washed over them all like a gentle rain after a drought. Now, standing before Noah Ward once more in this tumultuous saloon, Evelyn felt an overwhelming rush of gratitude mingled with confusion. Could this be fate? The man who had once fought for her sister's life was now stepping forward to protect her from this cruel auction block, a debt owed not just in words, but in actions that had saved lives. As she met his gaze again, she realized their fates were intertwined far beyond mere coincidence. He owed her nothing. Rather, she owed him everything for having shown such bravery in those dire hours. The bond they shared was forged in shared struggle and resilience against adversity. Evelyn pondered what this connection truly meant now as they faced an uncertain future together. Would he be able to protect her as he once protected Clara? A surge of hope bubbled within her. Perhaps they could reclaim their lives from the clutches of poverty and despair that had defined them both. As tensions still crackled throughout the saloon with lingering uncertainty hanging heavy in the air, Evelyn steeled herself for whatever lay ahead. This was not merely a chance at survival. It was an opportunity to embrace a new beginning, forged by shared history and unexpected alliances. With Noah by her side as both protector and ally against all odds, perhaps they could carve out a future filled with promise amid the shadows of their pasts. The atmosphere in Whiskey Ridge was a volatile mix of anger and intrigue following Noah's bold intervention. As he stood beside Evelyn, the townspeople reacted with a variety of emotions that reflected their complex views on the events unfolding before them. Some men, whose bids had been cut short by the sudden chaos of the gunshot, were red-faced and furious. They felt robbed of their chance to claim a bride, and were not shy about voicing their opinions. "Who does he think he is?" one burly miner shouted, fists clenched at his sides. His eyes darted around the gathering crowd, searching for allies among those who shared his discontent. "We're not going to let some scarred stranger dictate what happens in our town." The murmur of agreement that followed echoed through the saloon like a rustling wind, stoking the flames of rebellion among those who had relished the auction's cruel entertainment. Yet, amidst their anger, others stood captivated by Noah's display of strength and defiance. Some men regarded him as a figure of respect, a man willing to stand up against both tradition and violence. Whispers traveled through clusters of townsfolk, speculating on his motives. Was he merely vying for control, or did he truly aim to protect Evelyn? "He's got guts," one man remarked with admiration, nodding toward Noah. "I wouldn't dare cross him." This sentiment resonated with others who appreciated a show of strength in a place ruled by lawlessness. Evelyn's heart raced as she absorbed these conflicting reactions. She could feel the tension crackling like static electricity in the air around her. It was unclear which side would ultimately prevail, the angry bidders determined to stake their claim, or those who admired Noah's resolute stance against an ugly tradition. As the seconds stretched into an eternity, Noah remained steadfast by her side. His presence was both calming and intimidating. He scanned the room with sharp eyes, assessing the reactions around them while subtly shifting his weight as if ready for any confrontation that might arise. "Evelyn!" called a familiar voice from within the crowd. It was Mrs. Thompson, an old neighbor who once offered her kindness during trying times. "Are you all right?" There was genuine concern etched across her face, but it contrasted sharply with the hostility emanating from other parts of the saloon. "I'm fine," Evelyn managed to reply, though uncertainty gripped her heart. Her voice trembled slightly as she spoke. She was caught between two worlds, safety under Noah's protection and the uncertain reality awaiting outside this bubble of confrontation. Noah took a small step forward then, intercepting any escalating tensions by flashing his fierce gaze at the men still on edge from losing their chance at winning her an auction. "This isn't how we treat women," he declared, firmly but calmly, his voice resonating throughout the room. "Evelyn deserves respect, not to be sold like cattle." His words hung heavy in the air like smoke after a fire, a reminder that change could come in unexpected forms, even amid established traditions steeped in cruelty. The crowd quieted momentarily as they processed his challenge. Some men shifted uneasily, while others exchanged glances filled with uncertainty over their next moves. Yet it was clear that something had shifted irrevocably within Whiskey Ridge that day. An unyielding belief that perhaps things didn't have to remain as they always had been. For some townsfolk intrigued by Noah's actions, hope began to sprout where fear had previously taken root. As tensions flickered back and forth like flames caught in a gust of wind, Evelyn felt emboldened by Noah's intervention. Her heart thudded with renewed determination amidst all this upheaval. She realized that together they could confront whatever consequences lay ahead, not just for themselves, but perhaps for everyone living under oppressive customs in Whiskey Ridge. With newfound resolve springing forth from deep within her spirit, she clung tightly to the possibility that change might be within reach, if only they dared take that first step together into uncharted territory beyond tradition and fear. After the tumultuous events of the auction, Noah and Evelyn found themselves on the outskirts of Whiskey Ridge, away from the prying eyes of the townsfolk. The chaos of the saloon faded behind them, leaving a charged silence that felt both awkward and electric. Noah took a deep breath, glancing sideways at Evelyn, who stood with her hands nervously wringing the fabric of her dress. "Are you all right?" he asked gently, his voice softer than it had been in the saloon. Evelyn nodded, but couldn't suppress the tremor in her hands or the whirl of emotions swirling within her. I'm not sure what to feel," she admitted, her eyes darting to his. "You saved me back there." His gaze met hers with an intensity that sent warmth flooding through her. "You saved my sister long before I could ever repay you," he replied, his tone sincere. "I couldn't let them take you." Evelyn's heart fluttered at his words, but confusion clouded her mind. "But this, all of this," she gestured back toward the saloon, where angry voices still echoed faintly in the distance. "What does it mean? Will you protect me from all of that?" Noah took a step closer, allowing their proximity to bridge some unspoken distance between them. "I will do everything I can to keep you safe," he promised, his expression unwavering. "But trust is not something easily earned. It takes time." She felt a swell of gratitude mixed with hesitance as she absorbed his words. Trust, something she had always valued deeply, felt fragile after everything she had endured. In this lawless town filled with broken promises and betrayal, could she truly put her faith in him? "What about you?" Evelyn asked suddenly, shifting gears as curiosity took hold. "What brought you back to Whiskey Ridge? You didn't have to intervene like that." Noah exhaled slowly, leaning against a nearby tree and crossing his arms over his chest as he searched for the right words. "After Clara got sick, I had to leave town for a while. There were things I needed to sort out." His voice grew heavy with lost memories as he continued. "But I never forgot what you did for us during that outbreak. When I heard about this auction, I knew I had to come back." The weight of his confession hung between them like a thread connecting their pasts, a bond formed in shared sacrifice and survival. Evelyn felt a flicker of understanding ignite within her heart. They were bound by more than just circumstance. They had faced adversity together. "I didn't think anyone would remember," she said softly, looking down at her feet as she processed this newfound connection. "Of course we remember," Noah replied earnestly. "You showed incredible bravery when others turned away. It's something I've admired ever since." His words wrapped around her like a warm blanket in the chilly air of early evening, making her feel seen and valued after feeling like an object for so long. In that moment, Evelyn decided to take a leap of faith. "Then let's navigate this mess together," she said firmly, lifting her chin with resolve. "If we stand strong against them, together, we might be able to change things in Whiskey Ridge." Noah smiled at her determination, and for the first time since they had met again under such dire circumstances, hope blossomed in both their hearts. They exchanged glances filled with unspoken promises, a new alliance forged between two people who once fought solitary battles, but now faced an uncertain future side by side. As they turned back toward town together, both aware that challenges awaited them at every corner, they also recognized that unity could transform their fears into strength. A chance not only to survive, but to forge a new path for themselves amidst the shadows of their pasts. As the sun began to set over Whiskey Ridge, casting long shadows across the dusty streets, a palpable tension hung in the air. Word of Noah Ward's bold intervention spread quickly, igniting anger among the previous bidders who had felt humiliated by the abrupt end to the auction. They gathered at the saloon, their voices raised in outrage, plotting their revenge as they exchanged heated words and glances filled with venom. "Who does he think he is?" A burly miner named Hank spat, his face flushed with rage. "That scarred fool thinks he can just waltz in and take what's ours?" The other men nodded in agreement, a chorus of frustration echoing through the room. "His presence is disrespectful to tradition. He's challenging the very way we keep order here," another bidder added, slamming his fist down on a nearby table, causing glasses to rattle. They had relished the brutality of the auction, and now they felt robbed. Not just of their bids, but of their twisted sense of control over the fate of women like Evelyn. As they plotted Noah's downfall, whispers of intimidation began to circulate among them. "We can't let this stand," Hank insisted, his voice thick with malice. "We need to teach him a lesson. Show him that he can't disrupt our way of life without consequences." Meanwhile, in a nearby corner of Whiskey Ridge, Noah and Evelyn remained oblivious to the brewing storm. They had returned to the small cabin that Noah rented outside of town, a place he used as a sanctuary away from the chaos of gambling and auctioneering. But even here, dangers loomed. Since their intervention at the saloon, shadows lurked outside their door. "I don't like it," Evelyn murmured as they sat together at a rickety table, her brows knitted with concern. "The men you confronted back there, they won't let this go easily." Noah leaned back in his chair, trying to mask his own rising anxiety with confidence. "Let them come," he replied steadily. "I'll protect you. We both know what they are capable of." Evelyn swallowed hard. She admired Noah's bravado, but couldn't help feeling vulnerable. She had witnessed firsthand how cruel people could be when caught off guard. "It's not just me they want," she reminded him quietly. "They'll see you as a target now, too." Just then, a noise outside caught her attention, a low murmur that crescendoed into scattered shouts as more townsfolk gathered around the cabin. It was as if the entire atmosphere shifted into one of hostility and accusation. Suddenly, there was a loud bang on the door that made them both jump. "Noah!" came an angry voice from beyond, unmistakably Hank's. "Open up! We need to talk!" Noah exchanged a glance with Evelyn that conveyed both determination and apprehension. He rose to his feet and moved towards the door cautiously, taking one last look back at Evelyn to ensure she was ready for whatever might come next. "Stay close," he said softly, before flinging open the door wide enough for Hank and the others to see him standing there defiantly. "What do you want?" Noah demanded, his tone firm but calm, despite the tension crackling through the air like dry kindling about to burst into flames. "We want justice," Hank shouted from the front of the group. You think you can disrupt how we run things without consequences? We won't stand for it." Noah squared his shoulders in defiance as anger surged within him. He wouldn't back down from defending what was right, not for himself or for Evelyn. "You want justice?" he challenged, standing tall before them. "Then, let's talk about how you treat women in this town. Maybe it's time for real change." As they stood poised on the edge of confrontation, Evelyn could feel her heart pounding in her chest. They were on the brink of a significant battle, a reckoning that could alter not just her fate, but that of Whiskey Ridge itself. Would Noah's courage inspire change, or would it plunge them deeper into danger? The air hung heavy with uncertainty as they faced off against a tide of hostility threatening to sweep everything away. As the tension in Whiskey Ridge reached a boiling point, Evelyn found herself standing at a crossroads of courage and fear. The threats from the angry bidders had escalated, filling her with a sense of urgency that propelled her forward. After one sleepless night spent strategizing alongside Noah, she felt a fire ignite within her, a fierce determination to take a stand against the oppressive traditions of her town. Sitting on the porch of Noah's cabin as dawn broke over the horizon, she looked out at the rising sun spilling golden light across the landscape. It was a new day, both promising and uncertain. "We can't just wait for them to come for us," she said resolutely, gripping the wooden railing tightly. "We have to confront them before it gets worse." Noah turned toward her, surprise sparking in his eyes. "You really think we can take them on? They outnumber us," he cautioned, though there was a hint of admiration in his voice. Evelyn met his gaze with unwavering resolve. "They may outnumber us, but we have something they don't: principles and the will to fight for what's right." A rush of adrenaline coursed through her as she spoke. This was not just about her own safety anymore. She thought of all the other women who might be sold off in such auctions, women who had been silenced and treated like property for far too long. Noah regarded her thoughtfully, sensing the transformation taking place within her. He admired her bravery and knew this was no longer just a fight for survival. It was a battle for dignity and respect for every woman in Whiskey Ridge. "All right," he said, nodding slowly. "Let's do it together." As they stepped off the porch and approached the town square, Evelyn's heart raced with anticipation. The streets were unusually quiet, but she could feel the tense undercurrent that ran through the air, thick enough to cut with a knife. The townsfolk whispered among themselves as they caught sight of Noah and Evelyn walking side by side, an unusual sight that stirred curiosity and suspicion. When they reached the saloon, Noah took a deep breath and pushed open the door wide enough for them both to enter confidently. A wave of murmurs washed over them as patrons turned their attention toward the duo. Hank stood at the bar, flanked by several disgruntled bidders, his face contorted with rage as he spotted Noah. "You're back!" Hank barked, slamming down his drink as if it were the last shred of composure he had left. "What do you think you're doing here?" "We're here to talk," Noah replied firmly, stepping forward protectively beside Evelyn. She could feel his strength radiating next to her, bolstering her own resolve. Evelyn raised her chin defiantly as she addressed Hank directly. "This isn't about claiming brides anymore. It's about treating women with respect," she stated boldly. "No one should be bought or sold like cattle." A deep silence fell over the saloon as Evelyn's words hung heavy in the air. Some men shifted uneasily, while others exchanged glances filled with uncertainty. They were unaccustomed to being confronted so openly by a woman. "Are you suggesting we change everything?" one of them scoffed, trying to regain control of the narrative. "Yes," Evelyn declared, without hesitation, emboldened by both fear and hope swirling within her. It's time for this tradition to end. Women deserve agency over their lives. They deserve choices. The crowd stirred again as murmurs erupted around them. Some men appeared intrigued by the prospect of change, while others remained steadfastly defensive of their outdated customs. Hank stepped closer, eyes narrowing as he glared at Noah and Evelyn alike. "You think your words mean anything? We'll show you what happens when you defy our way of life." But instead of cowering before his threat, Evelyn felt empowered by Noah's presence beside her. "You can try," she replied fiercely, "but we won't stand down." As tension crackled like dry brush ready to ignite, it was clear that an important shift had begun, not just within their hearts but in Whiskey Ridge itself. This wasn't merely about confronting revenge-seeking men. It was about challenging an entire way of life that had oppressed countless women for far too long. Together, Noah and Evelyn stood firm amidst hostility, a beacon for those who dared dream of change in a world defined by shadows. In that moment of confrontation, they realized their fight extended beyond their own lives. It held power capable of reshaping Whiskey Ridge itself into something more hopeful and just. The atmosphere in Whiskey Ridge was electric with tension, as Noah and Evelyn stood firm against the angry townsfolk, their hearts pounding with anxiety and determination. Hank, along with a group of disgruntled bidders, confronted them inside the dimly lit saloon, ready to unleash their outrage. Noah could see that the men were tightly wound, glancing at each other as they gauged both their fury and fear. "You think you can just waltz in here and change everything?" Hank shouted, his anger palpable. "This is how we do things, how it's always been. You've disrespected our way of life." Evelyn stepped forward, her heart racing as she felt the weight of every eye in the room upon her. "It's not right to auction off women," she declared boldly, but steadied her voice against the tumult of emotions threatening to surface. "We deserve better than this tradition that reduces us to property." The murmurs rippling through the crowd were a mix of curiosity and resentment. Some patrons shifted uncomfortably, while others exchanged looks filled with doubt about their choices and what they had accepted for so long. "Who are you to speak for us?" one man challenged, stepping out from the back with a sneer. He was tall and broad-shouldered, standing defiantly at Hank's side. "I'm someone who refuses to be silenced," Evelyn replied fiercely, her hands clenched into fists at her sides. She could feel a surge of courage rising within. This confrontation was not solely about defending herself. It was about advocating for every woman caught in this ruthless system. At her side, Noah took a breath, amplifying her strength with his silent support. "This isn't just an argument against tradition. It's about doing what's right," he added stoutly. His intense gaze locked onto Hank's smoldering eyes, refusing to back down despite the dangerous energy swirling around them. Hank stepped forward again, his face flushed with rage that deepened further at Noah's defiance. "Do you really think we'll let some scarred outsider dictate our customs? You think we'll let this challenge go unanswered?" As confrontations escalated into hostile territory, Evelyn felt adrenaline coursing through her veins. This was no longer just about them versus the townsfolk. It had become a clash of values between oppression and liberation. Just then, an unexpected shout rang out from behind them. "Get away from them!" It was Clara, the sister whom Noah had once saved, her fierce eyes glimmering with conviction as she stepped forward into the crowd. "You may have kept us under your thumb for too long," she shouted defiantly at Hank. Surprised gasps echoed throughout the saloon as whispers swirled. Clara chose this moment to stand united with Noah and Evelyn against those who sought to oppress them all. Her presence ignited exhilaration within Evelyn. She wasn't alone anymore. They would fight together. Emboldened by Clara's arrival, Evan sensed a unity forming among those who believed change was necessary. In that tumultuous moment, filled with uncertainty and fear loomed on every corner, there existed an opportunity for empowerment through shared resistance. Noah exchanged determined glances with both women beside him. They were forged together in fire now, a trio of resolve facing off against deep-seated traditions, striving for justice amid turmoil. Just then, Hank raised his hand abruptly to silence everyone present, a signal that battle lines were drawn clearly between overriding forces that wished to maintain control versus those demanding liberation. The room fell silent before unrest surged again through heated conversations, a storm brewing steadily within Whiskey Ridge itself. "This ends now," Noah said firmly but calmly as he looked around at each man in front of him one last time. He planted his feet deeply into the floorboards beneath him, like roots stretching toward stability among shifting ground. A promise made that their fight wasn't futile or empty. As tensions peaked inside that saloon filled with inhibition turned to bravery, what lay ahead became uncertain, yet thrillingly poised on breaking point, poised between bygone customs weighed against emerging new ideals waiting just beyond sight, but only if they dared confront their fears head-on amidst volatile conflict, heralding future possibilities poised across horizons yet unseen. In the wake of the explosive confrontation at the saloon, the dust of Whiskey Ridge began to settle, but not without leaving its mark on Noah and Evelyn. They had faced down the angry bidders, and while they had emerged physically unscathed, the emotional toll weighed heavily on their shoulders. As evening fell, the two made their way back toward Noah's cabin, knowing that a new chapter awaited them, one that required both healing and growth. Evelyn was quiet as they walked, her mind swirling with thoughts about the day's events, Hank's bluster, Clara's courage, and her own resolve. She felt a mixture of relief and exhilaration at having stood up for herself and other women in a town that had long perpetuated oppression. But even as hope flickered within her, shadows of doubt crept into her mind. Would their actions truly lead to change in Whiskey Ridge? Would they be safe now? Noah sensed her turmoil as they approached the cabin. "You did well today," he said gently, breaking the silence that cloaked them. His voice held warmth and reassurance, mingling with the cool evening air. "Did we really accomplish anything?" she asked thoughtfully, fiddling with the edge of her dress. "We faced them down, but I can't shake this feeling that they'll come for us again." Noah pulled her aside just outside the cabin door. The fading light illuminated his face, showcasing resolve in his eyes. "What we did today was more than confront them. It was about taking a stand," he assured her. "It's a start. They know now that we won't be silent." Evelyn reflected on his words as she looked back toward the fading sunset over Whiskey Ridge. A deep strength surged within her. She remembered those moments of clarity when voices united could bring forth necessary change. With newfound determination setting in, Evelyn stepped inside the cabin and began to shake off reminders of fear and loss from outside. Her surroundings felt different, too, a safe space where she could embrace both vulnerability and hope. "Let's plan a meeting," she suggested suddenly, surprising herself with her own boldness. "We need to gather support. A group of women who feel just like we do." Noah raised an eyebrow in surprise, but nodded slowly as he warmed to this idea. "That's exactly what we need." Encouraged by their conversation's momentum, Evelyn continued outlining how they could create an organized effort for change among women in Whiskey Ridge. With every word exchanged between them, trust solidified further, a subtle yet powerful bond forming on the shared foundation of ideals, and courage sparked into action amid adversity. As time passed, and laughter returned to their conversations when ideas flowed freely between them, Evelyn began to feel more than just a connection to Noah. It was as if he understood parts of her that had long been buried under years of oppression. When night deepened around them, casting shadows across the wooden floorboards of the cabin, they reflected on their journeys, the struggles that had shaped who they were before converging in this momentous fight together. Conversations turned into promises of solidarity, centered on uplifting each other as allies against adversity moving forward. I didn't think I could feel safe again after everything, after being treated like property, Evelyn confessed softly as she leaned back against the cabin wall beside Noah. But now, I feel like I have purpose. You do have purpose, he replied earnestly, gazing at her with sincerity in his expression. We both do. In that shared acknowledgement cloaked under an evening sky sprinkled with stars, filled with ambition for a brighter future, Noah and Evelyn began crafting their journey together through challenges ahead, riding away from remnants of harsh traditions toward new beginnings forged by unity and strength. In Whiskey Ridge that night arose unlikely allies beneath the moonlight, a chance for belonging amidst uncertainty, an opportunity not only to survive, but to truly live in freedom against all odds. In the days following the confrontation in the saloon, a sense of transformation began to ripple through the air of Whiskey Ridge. The town felt different, as if it was slowly awakening from a long and oppressive slumber. Noah and Evelyn found themselves at the forefront of this change, their bond strengthening as they worked together to inspire a community that had long been shackled by harsh traditions. Evelyn took the lead in organizing meetings among the women of Whiskey Ridge, inviting them to share their stories and dreams for the future. Slowly but surely, more women began to gather in Noah's cabin, where conversations flourished amid laughter and tears. Together, they spoke openly about the auctions that had reduced their lives to mere transactions, about the hope for a better existence beyond the bidding block. I refuse to be bought or sold, one woman declared fiercely, her voice echoing in the small room. We deserve dignity. We deserve choice. These sentiments resonated deeply within Evelyn. Her heart swelled with pride to see others finding their voices, inspired by her own boldness. Meanwhile, Noah forged new relationships with men in town who had suffered from the same oppressive customs and had grown weary of the hostility surrounding their lives. He engaged them in discussions about respect and compassion, challenging them to reconsider what it meant to be a man in Whiskey Ridge. It's time to support our women, not treat them like possessions, he asserted passionately during one such gathering. Some men bristled at his words but listened nonetheless. Slowly, attitudes began to shift. Though challenges lay ahead, both Noah and Evelyn felt a renewed sense of purpose guiding their every action. The couple worked tirelessly, feeling as though they were sowing seeds for change. They envisioned a community rooted in mutual respect rather than power struggles, a place where dignity could flourish for all its residents. As their efforts began to take root, whispers of their movement spread beyond just the walls of Noah's cabin. It rippled through Whiskey Ridge like an infectious spark. Some townsfolk, those who had once supported auctions, began reconsidering their positions as conversations shifted from tradition to humanity. Yet, there were still those who resisted change fiercely. Hank and his allies were not easily deterred. They plotted against Noah and Evelyn, seeking ways to undermine their efforts and restore order to an old way of life that had existed for so long. Tensions simmered beneath the surface as battles took shape, not only in hearts, but also in minds throughout the community. Evelyn felt this weight pressing down on her even as she worked with newfound allies. There were nights when doubt crept in, casting shadows over her hopes. One evening, after a particularly tense meeting, she confided in Noah as they sat outside watching stars scatter across the night sky. "What if we fail?" she whispered hesitantly, gazing up into the vast darkness that seemed impenetrable at times. Noah turned toward her with unwavering determination shining from his eyes. "We will not fail because we stand together. Look at how far we've come already. The light of change has ignited within us." His conviction struck a chord deep within her. It reminded her why she had fought so hard. They were no longer just individuals seeking freedom. They were a force poised for change, a united front ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As whispers of resistance overtook realization, Evelyn and Noah persevered with courage, fueling their journey forward. They proved that change was indeed possible. They strengthened bonds within Whiskey Ridge while awakening compassion and solidarity among its residents. Together, they forged paths anew under stars that guided their every step, a testament to grit, resilience, and unwavering belief in their ability to reclaim a brighter future for all whose lives had once been dimmed by tradition and oppression.